today's episode, which is a special new Down the Rabbit Hole episode, part of Decentralized TV that has a little bit different format. So Todd, tell us about what does it mean when we have a Down the Rabbit Hole episode?
It means it's an episode that isn't necessarily dedicated to decentralized living, but man, oh man, is the guest interesting. And, you know, we needed to create a category to where that we could keep everyone interested in. And I'm just excited as heck. This is going to be fun because now we can, you know, break out of the just decentralized living and bring a lot of guests and topics and ideas to the table that I think people are going to love.
Yeah, well said. I would also add that this interview may not be as practical as what we normally do. And also, as a disclaimer, there may be points that are presented that Todd and I don't agree with, and that's totally okay. But we think overall, the content is worth your time and attention to consider. So enjoy this episode of Decentralized TV, Down the Rabbit Hole. Welcome, everyone, to Decentralized TV. I'm Mike Adams, joined in studio today by Lauren Witzke, who's got a website called Noah's Ark Scans. And of course, we're going to talk about some very interesting history here. Joined also, of course, by Todd Pittner, our co-host. Welcome, Todd, to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Really looking forward to today. I love the subject matter. I always like rewinding back to Genesis, so this is going to be fun.
This is going to be very interesting, and we're just really fortunate to have Lauren in studio here today. It's unusual that we actually have someone in studio, so welcome, and I hope you're enjoying the studio and the foods and everything.
This is the greatest studio I've ever been in, actually. It's really wonderful. I walked in, I was blown away. And you know, your product line that you have, I'm going to get some of that powdered butter and the heavy whipping cream before I go.
Oh, yeah.
You can hook me up.
You know, we test that for dioxins, too.
It's amazing. No, it's absolutely incredible. I think it's amazing what you're doing here, and very well needed this day and age.
Wow. Well, thank you. I'm blown away to hear that. But we're here to talk about you and some of your findings and you know, also your interpretation of where we are as a civilization. Humanity's, I think you would agree, humanity's in deep, deep trouble. Todd has a bunch of questions. He'll grill you with those questions. Sure. I've got questions, but in honoring you being here, where do you want to start out? You know, just sort of tell our audience about you and your project and your focus right now. Let's start there.
Sure. So last year I read a book. It was written by Rick Renner, and God laid Noah's Ark on my heart. Like, it wasn't a thought in my mind before. I didn't really think much of it. I knew it was, the story of it, but God it was last November. He just really laid it so heavy on my heart. So I started doing some research about Noah's Ark. And it was called The World Before the Flood was the book it was called. So I started reading this book, and apparently there's a bunch of candidates out there that people believe, oh, I have Noah's Ark. Oh, I have Noah's Ark. But, I was reading the book, and the Duerpenar Formation, which is on it's in Turkey. It's in the mountains of Ararat. It's near the Iranian border. So I was doing my research, and this is the Ark. It's the exact same size as Genesis says. It's the exact same width, 85 feet, 515 feet long, in the exact same spot. Now, many people think that, it's supposed to be at the top of the mountain of Ararat. It says, that it's supposed to be at the top. No. So the Bible specifically says it landed in the mountains of Ararat, which is a region, which is exactly where the Duerpenar Formation is. So God's laid this on my heart. It's very weird. I can't explain it. I just knew it was something I had to do. So I reached out to Noah's Ark Scans. So Noah's Ark Scans, it's ran by a gentleman he's an archaeological researcher named Andrew Jones. He's an American. And he just loves Noah's Ark. He has been giving tours out there for the last couple of decades.
He lives there?
He lives there.
Okay.
He lives there in a small village outside, about 30 minutes away from the formation. So I reached out to him, and I'm talking to him. I work in advertising, fundraising, that kind of thing. And I was like, I'd really like to help you. I feel like I'm supposed to help you. And he was like, oh, great, sure. Yeah. So we partnered up. It just kind of, God opened every door. I can't explain it. Like, we shouldn't have been able to get the permits that we got. We shouldn't have been able to move so quickly, but God just flew these doors wide open. So now fast forward.
Unlike the government of Egypt with the pyramids, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Right. the Turkish government recently voted unanimously to allow us to start really invasively testing the Duerpenar Formation. It was a unanimous vote, unprecedented for American Christians at that to come and dig at the boat. Yeah, it's just amazing. It was like unheard of. We couldn't believe it. So fast forward to just 2 weeks ago, actually just last week, we got the approvals of the permit, and I'm sure you guys saw the press release. And I feel like now is the time that people need to be reminded that God is real. And if I can prove that Noah's Ark is real, I can prove that the Great Flood happened, I can prove the existence of God. It's the most scoffed at story in the Bible. You talk to anybody, they're like, I bet you thought animals came on 2 by 2. But we're going in and we're gonna prove it. And that's my goal. And can you imagine how many lives would be saved? How many souls will be saved if I can give tangible proof of the existence of God?
Okay, wow. So, hey, Todd, let me bring you in on this because we just interviewed a guest that explains the Great Deluge.
Really?
Oh, it's very explainable. And there's also an abundance of geological evidence of these great floods that have happened, and for multiple great floods, actually. Some in North America, some in the modern Middle East, some in Europe, whatever. But there are a lot of cosmic events also. And, God always speaks through the motion of the sun, the moon, and the stars, right? Very often. Lots of references to the Bible. And his cosmic events have unleashed great floods from time to time throughout history. So I don't find it difficult at all to believe that there was a great flood. Why would somebody have a problem with that story? I mean, right, Todd? I mean, doesn't this seem like
every civilization has a flood story in its past? So
and that's not a coincidence.
Not just a minor. It
happened, and let's face it. If there is a God, and I assert there is, the God of the Bible, he would. If he created everything, right? How amazing this world is, this universe is. I think he's quite capable of leading each set of animals on, to the ark, leading them, protecting them, having a male and female go on, because he has a really, really good grasp on the future. Right? Well, he knows what he's doing.
Okay, but let me ask you this. I don't have any problem with the idea of bringing some animals onto the ark.
Right.
But not all of them. I mean, there's animals all over the planet.
Right. Well, it says 2 of every kind. And actually, it said 7 of every clean animal. So there were some animals that came on in 7s, not just 2s. So when God said, 2 of every kind, now you have how many different kinds of dogs? We have different breeds. This is back to the original 2 dogs. So as years progressed, they adapted, they evolved, they changed into different breeds. But your dog that's running around, your security dog, that nobody come up here and mess with Mike, because my goodness, that thing is huge. But his ancestry goes all the way back to the 2 dogs that were on Noah's Ark. So it wasn't every single breed, it was 2 of every kind. So it like really was about 5,000
seeds of the animals.
Yes, so it was about 5,000 animals total. And I do believe that they're babies. I don't think that he would bring adults or ones that are older in age onto the ark. So, because they have to be ready to breed because they were on the ark for a year.
But wouldn't that be a collapse of the genetic diversity necessary for a species to sort of survive after that? Like after the flood, you offload the animals. Don't they need a bigger gene pool to do well?
Well, I mean, it worked out because every single animal you see now came from the ark. That's where creation re-began. So I don't know how, but I know that's where it came from.
Here's the thing. God's involved, right?
Exactly.
and so he's quite capable of being, he's not fighting the universe.
Well, I hear you, Todd. And this is fascinating to me. I'm especially fascinated by the archaeological evidence. But I also think that the story has to make sense, which is why I'm interested in your investigation. And if you just say, well, God did it, then why did he need an ark at all? Why didn't God just save the animals from the flood and just put them back?
because he needed to kill the Nephilim, and there's a whole story behind that.
Right.
Nephilim?
So this all began.
Yeah, this is let's get into this.
All right, so very interesting. I love this part of the story. I'm fascinated with the Book of Enoch. Anybody who has read it,
too.
the first book, we're not really sure who wrote the second and third ones, but I do believe the first one is really that text it's a text that everybody should read. So within the Book of Enoch, it talks about, and this is mentioned in the Book of Genesis, that the angels from heaven, they looked down, they saw that women were beautiful, and they're like, let us go make wives out of them. So they came down and they had these babies, and it was like the master race. And in the Bible, it says they were men of renown. They were giants. They were the Nephilim. So these Nephilim, they weren't human, but they weren't entirely angels. So it was like a species that God had not created. So the devil can't create. He can only pervert what God has created. So, with these creatures that they weren't entirely human, they started breeding, and they started, these angels also taught mankind, really this divine wickedness, it's divine knowledge. They taught people how to do abortions. They taught the ways of pharmakia and sorcery and witchcraft, and mankind had become evil. So God looked down and he saw that the hearts of every man on this earth were evil, apart from Noah and his family. So it wasn't like he was just wiping out, friends and family and little children and all these people. No, every single heart was evil. And he saw that humanity had been corrupted. What he had seen was that the DNA of mankind had become corrupted. They weren't of the seed of Adam. They weren't traced back to what God had originally created. They were this perverted creation that God, he had to wash it away. They were giants. They had giftings that ordinary humans don't have. So he had to send the flood to wash the world clean. And he did create the animals. I'm sure he loved his animals. And that's why he wanted to preserve them. So he kept 2 of every kind. And it does take great faith. And, Noah built the ark for a whole year based on something that the Lord told him. He said, oh, gosh, something's coming. I got to prepare. So for 100 years, he built that ark. And, I don't know why. God is certainly capable.
For 100 years?
Yes, for 100 years he built the ark.
On the ark.
Yep, he built the ark. It took him 100 years. And during that time, he was telling people, hey, something's coming, you have to repent. And they did not. So God washed it away and started again. And this ark, it's not just a boat or a famous ship. It is literally where creation re-began.
So one of the questions that I'm really intrigued by then, because I'm not familiar with this site. I guess I've seen news stories over the years of, so this is a discovery of the ark. It might be from different places. Right. But what is the time dating of this? How many thousand years ago is estimated for this to be? And then what's remaining of, because the ark was made out of wood, right?
Yes.
So what's still there?
So the test results show it's about 4,000 plus years old, which if you're a creationalist, it maps out, it tracks perfectly around the time of when the flood would have happened. We've done soil testing. They've done extensive soil testing. And the testing has shown that there is a 30% increase in potassium, which means it's very rich in potassium. When the grass grows on it, it grows yellow. It's not the same dirt on what grows on the outside. It's completely different dirt. That's because there's organic matter within the formation, which means that there was decomposed wood. The acidity levels match what pitch would be like after thousands and thousands of years of decomposition. So the ark was 3 tiers. So it had the top floor, the second floor, and the bottom floor. The top floor of the ark is gone. That is what you kind of see there with the ridges and the sides. It was buried. It was actually invisible for years and years. In 1948, there was an earthquake and a mudslide, and then the formation reappeared.
Well, so it was partially preserved.
And it is very cold up there too. So it gets very cold. So I think it spends like 8 months out of the year frozen under ice. And then a lot of that wood has petrified.
But there's some wood still visible?
Well, we're going to find out. No, so there's arguments about that. And I don't want to say until the science comes in. Because people believe that, those sides are petrified wood under there. I don't know for sure. We won't know until we dig.
I see. Well, it seems like once you're able to take samples,
Yes.
that should be a pretty straightforward laboratory analysis process.
Yes. So we have solicited the help of some of the greatest minds in the world. And not all of them are Christians either. So we have a very unbiased team of people who are just interested in the data. The project leader, he's actually Turkish. He's a professor, an archaeologist, and he's very, very good at what he does. So he is the one kind of leading the other people underneath of him, and he's the one that will be evaluating a lot of what we find. So we are getting the top experts giving us irrefutable evidence of what is in there. Because, people, there's people that have pioneered it in the past, like Ron Wyatt, and they had a very biased approach. I don't think that they were entirely honest. And a lot of that research back then is hurting us now because people are saying, oh, Ron Wyatt did this back then. And, it was debunked. And I think there was a lot of sensationalism in what he did. And I think that I want to say this gently because people love him. And I think there was stuff that wasn't entirely true and it was debunkable. But we are using the most advanced technology, never before used stuff on this ark. This summer, actually, is where we got the permits.
You're about to see a lab today.
I know. I'm so excited.
My lab.
Yeah,
here.
I know. I'm very excited.
We have multiple mass spec instruments.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, you better send me home with some samples. But I mean, that's the thing. Like it's.
No, I'm saying you should send me some soil samples from the site. We can give you an exact elemental analysis at sub-parts per billion accuracy.
I could talk to them about that. So we, interestingly enough, you're not the only one who's interested in the soil samples. So it's funny that some of these World Health Organizations, people who are, very concerning people, but they're very powerful people, even they recognize it as the ark. They reached out to us trying to buy out the whole project, but they got to control the messaging that came out, and they wanted soil samples of the DNA.
What? Wait. DNA?
Yes, the DNA of the animals. So they want that
they
DNA
think that's
samples.
Still there?
Oh, yeah. I think so under there. I think in there because when they did GPR scans, there's chambers and voids and hallways that have been preserved under the ground for, thousands of years.
Wait, if they start pulling even fragments of animal DNA out of there, that's overwhelmingly proof.
Yes, and that's the goal.
But that's...
It's overwhelming
I would be
proof.
skeptical that there would be intact DNA at this point.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
And apparently some of these World Health Organizations think that there is. And I find it interesting that they want that DNA when they could pull, woolly mammoth DNA from, the Arctic, but they want it from here because it's the purest form of
they want
the animal.
non-GMO animal DNA.
Yeah, they don't want them after all. They want to know
Todd?
what they originally were.
Yeah.
Get the pure seeds,
Yep.
Right.
Instead of this garbage that we have all these like RNA injected cows running around today,
No, it's true. I mean, mankind
is.
has jacked up
Totally.
everything, like from
Yes.
our plants to our food to our
seeds,
animals.
everything.
Exactly. And, that is where you can find everything in its purest form. And because they did the GPR scans last year, they found these rooms and chambers that were still intact. So what we're going to do is
Like
we're going to...
empty?
Yeah,
Like
they're
hollow
voids,
under the rock?
There's a 250-foot hallway that goes through the middle.
What?
I think the back is collapsed, but we think it went right through the whole arc. Yeah, to the very, very top. So within there, if the halls and the rooms are still intact, possibly we could find some more stuff that's intact.
Whoa.
And what we're doing is we're core drilling. So it's about 6 to 10 inches a hole. We have to make sure that we don't hurt it, because it is a tourist attraction for the area.
course.
Yes, so we have to keep it intact. And then we're sending down a drone named Gopher. So Gopher is going to go in.
You're going to send a drone down the borehole.
Yep.
Is it a crawling drone or a flying drone? Or
one of the drones that we're currently having built it was designed, like the guy who designed it, he's an engineer, he builds wombat drones. So usually they're used to go underground and look at wombat holes.
Really?
So yeah, and he's working on something. And then my partner Edward, he also is working with some military contractor folks. That's not my arena, but they're also building an underground drone, and it's going to be connected to a wire of some sort. So it goes in, it's not like a floating,
Right.
but they're trying to make it have the capability to float when it gets in those voids. So we'll see.
What do you think, Todd?
Well, Mike, I know, I've done a lot of biblical exegesis, and I know chapter 6, verse 11, it says, and then God hit Control-Alt-Noah. So I figured that's when it happened, Mike.
Yeah.
We're already in the after party.
And we find there's tons of proof, and the ark isn't just the only proof of the flood, the Great Flood. So there are marine fossils that are found all over the world on Mount Everest of all places. And you have Bill Nye the Science Guy, who's one of our greatest seethers. Like, he just can't stand us. But Bill Nye the Science Guy, his argument is, everything was underwater at one point, and then, the continent shifted and all this stuff. It's like all these mental gymnastics to try and explain the fact that why there's a sand dollar fossil at the top of Mount Everest. The mountains of Ararat, there's also marine fossils all over the place. That place was definitely underwater at one point too. But also,
and there's also ancient civilizations below the waterline right now. All over
you're
the
still
world,
finding,
right?
Yes.
Coastal civilizations that were inundated with water when the Great Deluge and the Great Melting occurred. And
I'll get into some interesting stuff about the flood too, especially the dinosaurs, because we have proof right here in America of the Great Flood. So we have the marine fossils, but also all around the mountains of Ararat, they found 26 drogue stones. So drogue stones, because the ark didn't have a sail, it didn't have steering, it was just for survival. It was to preserve and survive this catastrophic event. So they used these drogue stones. They're these giant stones. They have a hole in them. I assume that's where the rope went. And then they were all around the ark, and they would keep the ark balanced as it was going through waves. It would keep it from capsizing.
Wow.
So there's 26 of them all around the area. You can look it up. You can find everything on noahsarkscans.com. I think we have some pictures of the drogue stones. But they were what kept the ark from tipping over because it didn't have steering. And
it would lower the center of gravity of the ship.
Yeah, it keeps it balanced. And
which is how oil rigs stay afloat during storms, by the way.
Oh, really? They use drogue stones?
Well, no, they use a similar kind of physics where they have weights below the waterline.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Exactly the same concept. And they're all around. So as the ark came and rested on the mountains of Ararat, I guess because it was connected to rope, they just started landing and getting caught along the way. And you can still see them there today.
Wow. That's really interesting. I would love to see that. Let me ask you a top-down kind of question in all of this. So, Todd and I both are men of faith, and a question I have, and I'm not trying to be dismissive at all.
No, bring it.
Is that I see evidence of God everywhere, every day, all the time. I don't need an ark to believe in God, right?
Right.
Now, I'm not dismissing it. This is some very interesting history and archaeology, but why would a real Christian have to see proof of the ark to believe in God when God is in every leaf, every plant, every sprout? God's everywhere all around us. I mean, there are so many examples of miracles even in our own bodies and minds.
Exactly. And you see that, like you, as a Christian, you see that every day. This research isn't really for Christians. It's for the skeptics. It's for the lost. It's for people who I need to see proof. I have an atheist uncle. He's like, you have to show me. I want to see, this. He gave me a list of things he needs to see to prove that there is a God. And there are Christians who have fallen away.
Tell him to look at the sun. I mean, it's right there. The Son of God is in the sky right now.
Exactly.
I mean.
And you know that.
It's like.
He knows that. But there's people out there that can look around at the vastness of, the sky and creation and recognize, wow, what an awesome God of creation I serve. And then there's the people who are, and as we've gotten further away, like society in general has gotten further and further away from God. There's a whole campaign. I think it's like a propaganda campaign that you don't exactly see. It's like a subvertive campaign to disprove that God, like everything is to kind of lead you to believe that we are just some floating ball in space. It was a big bang. Bill Nye the Science Guy won't believe in a flood, but he believes we came from chimps. Like their people aren't really rational. And
they
we're never going to believe.
They say everything came from nothing because it could.
Right.
that the Big Bang happened because it could, but nothing happened before the Big Bang.
Right.
Well, that doesn't make any sense, but that's like Stephen Hawking, and all the science people.
Yeah, and they
say
just came up with it themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't make
Apparently
any
it's gospel.
sense.
Yeah, they create up. And interestingly enough, when God created the heavens and the earth, He spoke. He spoke light into existence. And even today, there's studies being shown in medicine that frequencies have an impact on the body. Like you can heal, Raymond Royal Rife, he treated cancer with frequencies, and there's certain frequencies that are
phototherapy
healing.
right now. Sunlight.
Exactly.
Again, back to the Son of God in the sky is medicine.
Yes.
If you let it touch you. So our modern system pushes sunscreen to block the light of God from touching your skin to keep you in darkness and disease.
Yep.
That's the medical system in a nutshell.
Exactly. It is, everything is designed to drift you further and further away from God, to a point that a lot of people don't even think He's real or that he exists. The fact that, we're talking about Noah's Ark, which is the most scoffed at story. It's the most dismissed as a joke story out there. If proving that is real, I believe is going to save hopefully millions, billions of people who were on the fence. There's always going to be the detractors who are going to never believe anything just because people don't want to be held accountable. Honestly, if there's a God, I have to be held accountable for the bad things I've done. It's much easier to believe that there isn't one, and I never will be. So that it's kind of like a cope almost. Well, there's not a God, so it doesn't matter if I'm making bad choices or doing all these evil things.
That's a really interesting thing you just said. And I want Todd to chime in on this, but to reject God is to then give a sort of a cover story for people's narcissism and unethical behavior.
Exactly.
And then some people on our planet, they say that God gave them the right to mass slaughter other people in the name of God. And to me, that's a total corruption of life and what God is all about. Todd, what do you say?
Well, I just look out now and I see so many people and, certain peoples that have evil on their hearts, that they support genocide, et cetera. And so I kind of understand God when He did the Control-Alt-Noah thing. And I want to say, Mike, that, if God exists, surely He was capable of using some regular people to be able to write His message, to write a book, or 66 books, if you will.
Right.
And I would like to say that, first of all, I think everything within those 66 books, the Old Testament, the New Testament, everything reconciles. So that's, and I didn't believe that. It took God 42 years to get me to pay attention to Him. And so, it's funny. It's like, I'm sure because I grew up Catholic, and my association with God is the smell of incense at midnight mass, and I could not get. I couldn't exit left fast enough when I finally went to college and didn't have Dad, twist me by the ear to bring me to mass every weekend. But people ask me, and I know that there's a lot of people who knew me way back when who would pray for me a lot because, and I'm certainly think there were some people who were like, he's a lost cause, So
were those your mullet days?
The mullet days. So why do I believe in God now? My only answer has nothing to do with me. It's because God willed me to, but He used specific means my 42nd year to be able to break in and get my attention. And when I did, then it just became astonishing. So now I think that, sure, why would somebody need Noah's Ark or proof of to be able to believe in God? Because they can see it in the sun, they can see it. But you know what? God's timing is perfect. And He uses different ways at different times. I mean, my goodness, there are certain people that I believe He gets their attention on their deathbed, and they too can be saved.
Well, well said, Todd. But what I really like about the fact that you're investigating Noah's Ark is that it's more of a pure expression of God's intent before the Vatican came along and messed with half the New Testament and rewrote it and misattributed it. And first of all, I don't trust a lot of the translations of the original Hebrew text and this and that. I believe in the Word of God, but I also believe man corrupted it all along the way, and so did the Vatican, big time.
Right. And, I know this is a very heavily debated topic, and it's considered very controversial, but they almost threw out the book of Isaiah. They also threw out the book of Enoch,
There's
which
a
was
bunch they
also
did throw
found
out.
in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
I mean, Ethiopia has 88 books of the Bible, the
Yes.
Christian Bible.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what happened to those other chapters?
Right. And I don't believe that all of the 88 books in the Ethiopian Bible should have been canonized. I think that there were some good calls, and I think that there were some where they were self-indulgent calls. So the book of Enoch it was a lot of accountability. It tells what happens when you get involved in like this dark sin. They're talking about crossbreeding and pharmakia and a lot of that stuff. And it does say in the book of Enoch, however, that it was saved for a later generation. It was a book not written. I guess it wasn't, God didn't want it canonized, but he did. It was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Meanwhile, the book of Esther was not found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, but she still made it into the Bible, which I found very interesting. And you really don't know.
There was a lot of editorializing along the way.
Yes, there's a lot of things that, and we don't know. And I don't know the heart of God, and I don't want to say that some of these books belong there, but I don't know. Do you think God would allow it? Or do you think maybe, it's something he's allowing to happen with these books that don't belong in there?
Well, in my view, it's very simple. God gives us all free will, including the ability of man to corrupt the Word of God.
Yep.
And that's clearly what has happened over these thousands of years. But again, back to what you're focused on here with Noah, whatever you find there is obviously all New Testament and a lot of the Old Testament as well.
Yep.
Right?
So actually, the Noah's Ark, he had mentioned that the flood is mentioned in a ton of different cultures and different countries. It's because it all comes back from the same source. So the Noah's Ark is also mentioned. The flood is mentioned in the Quran. It's mentioned in the Torah. It's mentioned in the book of Genesis. So it's a story that has been documented through tons of different religions and tons of different cultures. After the Tower of Babel, with Nimrod, defying God and God splitting up the people, the story has kind of tweaked and changed, but the original source has always been Noah's Ark. So if you go to Mesopotamia or you go to Argentina, you can find different versions of the Ark story. Even the Indians had a story of a flood, a great flood, and a family that was preserved amidst it. And there's a lot of debate about it being a regional flood versus a global flood. Well, if it was a regional flood, why didn't Noah just move? Why did the birds fly from all over when they could just fly the other way? So that it really isn't a real theory.
Right. I need to show you something that's on my laptop.
Yeah,
here.
sure.
So just stand by. Let me bring this up.
By the way, while you bring that up, I just want to say the book of Esther is my favorite book in the Bible. And my favorite verse is Esther 6:1, which says, "On that night, the king could not sleep." You can see I have it highlighted. It's the only orange highlight there because that one verse demonstrates that God is absolutely sovereign. So it was that night that he made it so the king couldn't sleep, and that totally changes the whole book of Esther because he was restless. And then anyway, I'm just sharing that to where, to me, God is so sovereign. If Esther's in the book, it's meant to be in the book.
Right.
If Enoch is not in the book, it's meant to not be in, but it's meant to be found. So anyway, it's just all fascinating to me.
Right.
What I want to mention is that from my interpretation of many passages of the Bible, many books, and including the book of Revelation, which I'm going to show you here, God works through nature. God works through the movement of planets and the sun and the stars. How many references are there to the stars in the sky and so on? And what I'm showing you right here on my laptop, if you guys can show that on the broadcast, this is a depiction of the third trumpet and the third bowl from the book of Revelation, where I handed this description because I wanted to eliminate my own human bias of what it's showing. I handed this description to an AI image generator to generate an image of what the third trumpet and the third bowl, which describe the same event, what does that look like? And here it is. The angel sounded, and the star fell from the heavens and so on. And the fourth trumpet and the fifth trumpet and so on. All seven describe a series of increasingly intense impact events. Now, if you talk to experts that we've just interviewed, like Randall Carlson, these impact events, which God can send them, God can send a reset rock from space. And these events can cause instant massive melting of ice shelves that causes a global deluge of the entire world, where the ocean levels rise 150 meters, but there's massive flooding inland for several days or weeks, or even perhaps longer, as the oceans are rising, and that's kind of a reset. So my point is, and I'd love your reaction to this, is that even the scientists out there who would say, no, it was a giant meteor that caused the flood. Who sent the meteor? Like how did that happen? Because our universe has a creator and everything has been set into motion, and those giant space rocks have an origin point that intersects with Earth at a certain time with a certain ramification, which is a giant flood.
So I find that interesting that AI has access to all the information in the world, and that's the image it gave you.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting to me.
But I fed it the actual scripture from the King James translation.
So are you suggesting that, God sent a meteor that is what the flood caused the flood? It could be possible, but also he talks about how he opened the floods of the great deep. So we're talking about volcanic stuff, not just coming from the sky, but coming from the bottom up.
Well, I think those things are actually the same. So when the meteors hit, they set off the volcanoes.
Okay, and Mount Ararat is a volcanic.
There's a shaking, volcanoes erupt, and ice melts, and then the floods happen. All of these things are the same event.
It's interesting. Okay, so in the United States of America, right up the middle of it, I'm not exactly sure of the states, there's this giant, it's like a dinosaur graveyard is what it is. And I have my own opinion on what dinosaurs are. But so it's this giant graveyard, but it's only adult dinosaurs. So what scared them so much that they left their young? So it's just it's states and states long. It's hundreds and hundreds of miles long. And it's like this graveyard of dinosaur fossils that they keep finding, and archaeologists are studying it. And it's I found this very interesting. And but because they were all adults, it tells you that they were running from something because they left their young behind. So there were not a single baby dinosaur you can find in this giant graveyard that it's thousands and thousands of miles long that goes through the United States. I'll have to look up the exact name of it because it's important.
I'm very curious about
it's
that.
real. Yep. So it is possible, that there was, a meteor God sent also to kind of finish the job. I don't know. I wasn't there. I know that he said it did rain and pour for 40 days, though.
That's entirely consistent with a meteor impact on the ice shelf.
Okay.
It would cause ice to flood the sky, and then there would be ice falling down. This is actually also described in Revelation, by the way.
Yeah, because they had never seen rain before, those people. They usually used to hold, I think it's like sheets or whatever, and collect, it was like moisture in the air. They had never seen rain. So what catastrophic event caused the rain?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this would be, if you wanted to reset the planet, this would be the simplest way to do it, is you send a giant space rock to intersect with the ice shelf. You cause a massive flood, earthquakes and volcanoes raining down upon the world. You would kill off most life that isn't prepared.
And including the Nephilim. So including the Nephilim.
There you go.
Because they were not human, they weren't quite gods. Well, I think they were, you hear stories of demigods. I think they're telling the story of the Nephilim. They were powerful. They were stronger than your average human. So it wasn't just like he could use an ordinary event to wipe out humanity. It had to be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Like the story of Noah's Ark, it's not just like a little drizzle for 40 days. And, like the floods go up slowly. No, it was catastrophic. We're talking huge waves of tsunamis. We're talking like rapid flooding that takes over entire continents very quickly. It was catastrophic, and it had to be in order to kill off the Nephilim. And that's why he did it the way he did.
So is it possible that God sent the same message to other people in other regions who had other life, other types of animals, that maybe there are multiple Noah's Arks on different continents?
No, I don't think so. I think there's one.
You think there's just one?
I think there's just one.
Why would he only limit it to one region?
Well, we don't really know where Noah built the ark either. Like, we don't really know the origin story of it. There's theories about it. There wasn't that many people on the earth back then, too. We don't know where everybody was. So we're only talking about, I think,
Much
9 or 10 generations from Adam. And because people lived so long back then, you have people like Methuselah, who was Noah's grandfather. He was alive the same time that Adam was. So he got to hear these stories firsthand from Adam about creation and walking in the garden with God. Like, people don't remember, people lived a lot longer back then. So there wasn't as many people at that time. So I don't know if there would be a need for that many Noah's Arks, because maybe there's 1 million people on the earth tops at the time, because we're talking 9 generations from Adam, I think it is.
But and again, pardon me, but this is the science skeptic side of me. There were ancient Chinese civilization. There's ancient Indian civilization. There's ancient pre-Russian or the Rus of
But all that
Northern
happened
Europe.
after the Tower of Babel. They were all one people before. Under Nimrod, yeah.
But doesn't the archaeological evidence show that there were other civilizations around the world before even like 5,000 years ago?
Well, we all came back, but all of us are descendants of the 8 people that came off the ark. So his sons and their generations can be traced to like the Persians. And then you have the Indians are traced to one of them. And because Noah's sons went and dispensed across the earth, that's where you get all these different people. I don't know what their wives were and what, their genetic makeup was, but this all came later. And sure, there were civilizations before the flood, of course, because God looked down and saw that there was evil. You're not just running around just being evil in a field. They were civilizations. He destroyed whole worlds, whole cities of people. So yeah, there was civilization before. I think one ark preserved what he wanted to preserve, and he saw that the hearts of every single man, human, were evil. So I don't think that, apart from Noah and his family, I don't think I have a theory. I don't think babies and children can be evil. So I actually think by that point, because they were so wicked and the giants were eating people and they were sacrificing their babies, there probably wasn't any kids. And if there were any kids, they were a result of genetic breeding. I think the DNA had been corrupted because they were dialed back. So yeah, there were civilizations before the ark. But I think only one ark got the job done, one flood to wash it all away.
Okay, then a follow-up question, and then Todd has the next question. Is it time for God to reset the earth again because of all the corruption and evil that is spreading now?
Well, he did promise.
Is that coming next,
So he did
Should we
promise.
spin the globe here and get ready?
I mean, you have to think, how bad were things back then? Well, they were doing sin. They were sinning against birds and beasts, back then. They were, it was just really wicked times. And you're seeing a lot of that stuff that's happening back then, the crossbreeding. What did Congressman Matt Gaetz talk about? He talked about how the U.S. government is breeding with interdimensional beings. Okay, what do you think those interdimensional beings are?
The Nephilim again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what you have is... I lost my train of thought. Sorry. I went off I was thinking about the Congress.
Well, every example of wickedness from the past, I think, is equally matched or surpassed by the wickedness of what's happening today.
Yes, exactly. And you're seeing a lot of those same sins. And I think that God preserved the ark because he needed people to be reminded of what they were, the kind of sins and evil those people were doing and what he is capable of. Now, he did send the rainbow and promise I'll never flood the earth again. He didn't say anything about brimstone and fire, okay? Nope. And it's getting pretty wicked out there.
There's another method at work, yeah.
Yep.
Todd, okay. Sorry, Todd.
They were so evil back then. They would Moloch. Remember Moloch? Yep. They would take their kids and they would provide them to Moloch, burn them. Yep. Well, can I introduce you to the notion of Planned Parenthood? Let's talk wicked.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
It's literally a machine.
It's celebrated today even more than it was back then, and now you have way more bizarre sexual perversions beyond Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, which also was hit by hailstones from the heavens, right?
Yep.
So that was wipe out from the sky.
Yep.
But yeah, go ahead, Todd.
No, so I mean, I think there was one ark. I think God wrote that in the book, and so I believe it. And when you just think about everything that's going on right now, it is nothing but wicked. So I think the timing is right, and I think the timing is right for our show. Frankly, that people should be preparing, right? Not just physically, but spiritually. I think it's time to get right with God. Now, I'm not going to use this show or platform to be able to go down that rabbit hole and tell you how, but I do hope people are getting in touch with their centralizing. This is the only time I really opt for centralization, as a matter of fact, their spirituality. Because there is a God and we can know him. And I think it's time to, my favorite prayer ever is just, Lord, help.
But Todd, you say something really critical, because I think that the modern church, the modern Christian church, has been completely infiltrated and turned into a demonic entity of, Schofield Bible brainwashing to convince Christians to support mass genocide and the bombing and murdering of women and children.
I do find it interesting that right after they signed, it's same year, same time, they signed the Balfour Declaration, there was an earthquake that unearthed Noah's Ark. I just find that very fascinating, 1948. And I do think it is related, and we do now have mass deception. People believe that a nation state of 1 million people established in 1948 is this holy chosen people who are exempt from salvation because of their race or their religion. They get mad if you call it either one. So it's like their race, religion.
Right.
But, that's, if you call it one thing, they're like, no, it's a race. No, it's a religion. And you just can't get it right. But anyway, so, they've deceived Christians and evangelicals specifically.
Clearly.
Which I'm an evangelical too, and I'm watching, and I used to be a rabid Zionist too, because I grew up in the church believing that these were God's chosen people. It's God's, and even though the land is holy, what are they doing with it? They turned it into the gay capital of the world. Tel Aviv is the gayest city in the world. It's a mockery of our holy site where Christ died on a cross. They're going to go and have
wasn't
pride.
an LGBT cross.
No, it was not an LGBT, if you know what I mean. Right. It was a cross. So, when he died on the cross, he didn't die on the cross so they could turn it into a giant gay pride parade with trannies and freaks and all this stuff. And that's what they've done with our Holy Land. They've made a mockery out of it. You send Christians over there, they spit on you. They hate us. They reject Jesus, and then they also hate his followers as well. You can't tell
but in America, then, the people who identify as Christians, they still support that.
Yeah, because like
they
you said,
money.
It was a mass brainwashing and deceit event.
Yes.
With the Schofield Bible. So it put this commentary in there. People that aren't familiar with it, we had like the New King James Version of the Bible, and then Schofield came along, and then he started putting commentary in there. Like, okay, well, when they talk about, they manipulate and pervert the Bible where it says, I will bless those who bless you. God was talking to Abraham. He was talking to his descendants. Well, I grew up singing the song Father Abraham, had many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them. So back then I was raised thinking that everybody was, came from Abraham. He said, be fruitful and multiply. Okay, so now it's actually just Israel that's a descendant of Abraham, and they are going to curse everybody who opposes their genocidal agenda. And I'll tell you what, Jesus does love little children, and I saw little toddlers bombed, and they were laughing. Did you see Randy Fine? Oh my gosh, he
what
represents,
demon, right?
The congressman of Tel Aviv.
Total demon.
He was mocking a little infant who was found bombed in the rubble in Israel. It's evil. That's some evil wickedness.
Well, right. And so that's my question.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all established here, or we've reminded our audience that there's extreme wickedness in the world today.
Yep.
So how close are the impact asteroids? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, if there's going to be a reset condition, seems like we're almost there.
I think God isn't done yet. I think that I try not to get too black-pilled because it does look dark. And after COVID, mass formation psychosis. I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think that God wants to do some things to try and save people. I think that there is hope. And I think that there's a reason that he laid Noah's Ark on my heart. I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't really, I didn't care about it that much, but it was like something I had to do.
It's a very specific interest area.
Exactly. And I think it's because, and at the same time, I'm watching so I'm working behind the scenes. I've been working on this since last November. And I'm watching all this stuff unfold with the U.S. government and the alien disclosures and the mass deception. They're talking about how it's going to shake Christians' faith, what they're going to reveal. It's going to make Christians question everything. And what they're going to try and convince the world is that we actually are a creation of these friendly aliens who are here to help.
I've heard that theory getting floated around recently.
Yeah. So we sat down with the pastor who sat in that meeting. They had a top secret meeting with the pastors, and they did this. They brought them out into the woods, into this house, and they sat them down and had this 3-hour presentation. He wasn't allowed to tell me who was giving the presentation, but it was somebody who worked within the U.S. government that had seen this stuff unfolding. And he said, "This is what they're going to do. This is what's unfolding. Prepare your people." So as a Christian myself, I'm like, well, there is nothing you can show me that will convince me.
But after that meeting, I didn't hear any Christian pastors that were at the meeting say anything profound.
Exactly.
Did you?
Well, no, I didn't either. And
so
I did grill him
what
on
was
that.
the point? You're supposed to prepare your flock, but they didn't say anything.
Yeah, that's true too. And I did, we sat down with him, we did kind of try and dig. He wouldn't give us much about it.
So just keep it secret.
It could just be like a sensationalism thing.
Yeah.
It could be like, hey, retweet me. I know. I don't know.
Sensationalism leads to dispensationalism.
Yep. But if I do believe that they have something.
But are they going to claim that we are creations of an alien, an extraterrestrial?
I think they're going to give fake
master
proof of it.
race or something that created us as a slave race to work the mines?
That, and then also, I think there's different ways. It's very strange that Steven Spielberg just came out with that film Disclosure at the same time. Okay, he started production. You know how long it takes to make a film. It takes years. He started production on that how long ago, and it just happened to release this year.
Yeah.
No, they're preparing
Seems
you for
scripted, doesn't
something.
it?
And I think it actually is that, okay, we have a God of this world, and then, or like it's an alien, and then there's different worlds out there with different gods, or, instead of trying to, they're subverting the message of one almighty God who created all of it. And we don't know what they're going to do.
And guess what? God is so great that the reviews on the Disclosure movie they're just horrible. But
really?
Are they?
Oh my God. It is just, everybody is just like, it has to be the worst movie I've ever seen. It is so crappy.
What?
Wow.
That's crazy because Spielberg is a master storyteller.
He's not. He's a boomer he's been, it's horrible. It's just horrible. Just read the reviews. But I do have an alien encounter, Mike, though.
Yeah. Tell
us.
us.
I don't know, Lauren, if you know or not. I don't know if you've ever seen any of our episodes before, but I installed a food forest 3 years ago, and it was I think it was like maybe 10 days ago. There was something in my food forest, Mike.
Wait, what? His what?
Food forest.
Food forest.
It's like growing bananas and stuff in his backyard.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mangoes,
it's a whole permaculture food forest, and there was something out in the food forest, and I went out there, and it was indeed an alien, Mike. And
Okay,
you know
I
what
can't
it
wait to
said
see
me?
it.
Did you
gonna
capture
show us?
pics or it didn't happen?
No, he just said, "Take me to your weeder." And I'm sorry, I just had to get that in there. But,
of course. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. You're making fun of boomers, and then that was the big boomer joke. That was a dad joke right there.
That was a
Total
that was a dad joke.
Yeah. Well, okay, but I think we're on to something here, which is that there is a narrative that's being prepared for us.
yeah.
And then your work on Noah's Ark is trying to counter whatever alien narrative that we're about to be told.
Could be.
By saying, hey, there may be archaeological proof of this important story in the Bible. Now, for me, I will be absolutely convinced if they find like Noah's wine bottles in one of the, like, he left them
Noah's
behind, he didn't finish
preserves.
them all.
No. I mean, the Holy Grail is inscriptions. So we know they were on the ark for like over a year. They're keeping tabs on things. You know that they were writing down feedings or counting the days, or, that would be the holy grail.
Absolutely.
If we could get in there and find
a record,
inscriptions.
like the captain's log.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, of course, there's the animal DNA from the animal droppings and everything that was in there too, and the animal hair. And, because it's so cold there's a really good chance a lot of that is still preserved. And because it was under the ground up until 1948 as well. So it was underground, invisible until this earthquake came and a mudslide, and Captain DeRupenar found it as he was flying above. But until then, it wasn't visible. But there's years and years, decades of documented encounters on the Silk Road. People would stop. This was a stop on the Silk Road where they would stop at Noah's Ark and get a piece of the wood and a piece of the pitch for good luck, and then they get back on their way. Ancient maps all show this as Noah's Ark.
Really?
And if science were really about science instead of disproving God, which science has become, the whole thing is an agenda to disprove God. Okay, well, the Big Bang, and this is where it's just science, trust the science. Did you hear the science? We're doing real science, and the real science leads all the way to God. And if scientists were serious about their jobs and what they do and studying things, they would be all over this formation. They'd be all over the fact there's sand dollars at the top of Mount Everest. They'd be all over that. But science isn't about science anymore. It's about deceiving. It's a great deception.
We've had guests on the show, and we've had conversations about simulation theory.
Okay.
And I've pointed out, even in my podcast many times, that you've heard this, Todd, that the explanation of simulation theory is entirely consistent with the book of Genesis. And if you talk to simulation theory advocates, it's like, so describe what happened. It's like, well, our universe was created by an intelligent creator. Like, yes, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And then and we're living in it, and it's kind of like a test. Yes, you got it. You're still on the right track. And they're like, yeah, and you're supposed to figure out the test, and it's like a personal mission. And yes, so it's interesting to me because I believe that we are living in a cosmos created by our Creator, by God, and that it is a personal test, and that there is a heaven that transcends this realm. And that's described multiple times in multiple ways. Even by Christ himself, but also throughout, even in the book of Revelation, right? Why, in your view, why do you think that there are so many science people who believe in simulation theory, but somehow not a creator? Isn't that contradictory?
Yeah, because they can't accept the fact that there is a God, an accountable God who will hold them to account for the evil. I also think that there is a lot, I might sound a little conspiracy theorist, and I'm not a theologian. I do think that, when the flood came and they wiped out the Nephilim, the souls of the Nephilim are here. I do believe, even the Bible says we live... we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness in high places, princes of the air. So there is another realm there. And I do think that other realm is influencing our realm, especially in the field of science, U.S. governments. I think that there is something, demonic that they are being fed. Okay, yeah, and they take a little bit of truth and they spin it into a great lie. And I do think that there is some influence going on behind the scenes there. Because they hate us. They want us destroyed. They want nothing good for us.
And I think occasionally they inhabit people.
Absolutely.
Yep. Demonic possession is the thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Demonic possession is a very real thing, right, Todd?
Very, very, very real thing.
You
know what?
You have some possessed raccoons in your backyard, don't you?
If you are going to, believe the biblical account, right, you have to consider the other character in there, right? Satan. And he's very good at what he does. And he is king of this world. And he is the head honcho of the disembodied spirits, the Nephilim, and the demonic presence that is out there. It's very, very real. That's why this world is so wicked. And the good news is we know how the story ends, right? But with all of the wickedness that's out there right now, it is just no wonder. We have to pay attention, and it is. Whether it's the Epstein files, whether it's just all of it, right, that is surrounding us right now. I just hope people pay attention that the only way out of this, frankly, and I never evangelize on here, but right, it's just trusting Jesus Christ. It's the gospel. And, that's a message. And you know what? That message, there may be one person watching this DTV episode, one person that this episode impacted to where they thought, maybe I should take this God thing seriously. And maybe we've led them down a path. Maybe they'll go read Genesis. They'll go read the Noah account. I don't know, but I think that's how God rolls.
Well,
right?
I think it's very clear that human civilization has no future if we can't be more Christ-like in the way that we treat each other. And as I've said in my own podcast, it's actually not that hard to qualify for heaven the way it's described in the Bible.
It's so easy.
It actually is easy. Yeah. Even, what's maybe the number one sin described in Revelation is cowardice. And that describes like 90% of the population. They're too afraid to speak out. They're too afraid to challenge the status quo. But to not make it to heaven means you have to be really pretty damned wicked.
Yeah.
To make it into heaven.
Reject him. Yep.
It's not that hard to be a good person. You don't have to be a billionaire. You don't have to be high IQ.
Yep. You just have to accept him as your Lord and Savior. It's that simple.
Amen. That's it.
It's so simple.
That's
and
it.
what do you have to lose? To people watching, what do you have to lose? You have nothing to lose. You have everything to gain, and it could cost you. It could cost your eternity, because that's happening too.
Okay, so one final question for you on this.
Sure.
We're almost up on time. Is that with the realm of AI, we have a lot of the AI scientists, machine learning experts, whatever. And I'm an AI developer, but I use it for humanity.
Well, I'm glad Christians are using it, because we should weaponize it. It's like, why would we let our enemies get sole possession of the nuclear bomb and not us?
Right. But what I'm saying is that they think that they will summon gods from the realm of AI.
Ooh.
That they believe in, quote, gods, just not the God or the creator of the universe. They believe they can summon or they can invoke gods by building simulated worlds and then growing gods and giving birth to gods that they can bring into this world.
I have heard that theory that they can't, some of those demons or Nephilim souls or whatever they are, can't inhabit some people. So they're building like an AI, almost like a robotic a vessel for them to reside in.
Silicon neurology, large scale in a data center that they plan to inhabit with an AI God entity from another, a world simulation that they build themselves.
And you have to, they're growing kids in like petri dishes or whatever with like just a skin cell, and they're growing these bodies. Do these bodies have souls? Like they weren't conceived. What are they? You know? And they are growing some really weird things. And as technology gets more and more advanced, so does our potential for wickedness with it.
Well, that's the key. And that humanity today is lacking a moral compass.
It is.
And so by advancing this technology without integrity, without compassion, without faith, you end up on a path of total destruction.
It's true.
And I
the enemy plays the long game too, if you look at it. So he took decades. He's very patient, putting his people into positions of power, like Dr. Fauci, for example. It was years and years and years, and it was like a chessboard. He put everybody, his people, in the places where he wanted them to be for when he strikes. And what you're seeing is an assembling. Like they're assembling. They're in the time of building and preparing for whatever strike they have next. And it's his army. It really is. It is. And
he plays long ball.
He does.
I mean, yeah.
He does play long ball.
He's very, very good at what he does. And what he hates is the good, beautiful, and true. Because that is all God. That is all Christ. The good, the beautiful, and true. So anything that represents that, they are going to do everything possible to destroy.
Exactly.
I think the takeaway from today's show and your presence here, and thank you, by the way, for coming.
Thank you for having me. I get a tour now.
We have to decentralize away from the controlled, corrupted expression of, quote, religion.
Yep.
And we have to reconnect with the reality of faith in Christ and God and our Creator. And so that's decentralizing away from the corrupt church.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Do you agree with that?
No. So my parents, their church, we just had to leave. They left the Methodist, covering denominations. There's a breakaway within the church because, whether they are choosing to support homosexuality, it's not just homosexuality. It's also rabid Zionism that's consuming our churches, which is it's a deception. It's a perversion of Scripture. They're trying to say that priests now can marry gays, and that it's a consummated marriage, or like it's like a blessed marriage, and that people like Nancy Pelosi can be Christians, and it's like the fruit of what you're. It's becoming a very inclusive church, and that's a problem. And then exclusive for people who don't support a political agenda of a nation state.
Well, I think the litmus test is very simple. If you don't understand that all children on this planet are God's children, and that they all have the right to live.
There might be some descendants of Nephilim in there. The seed have been corrupted on some of these people.
Yeah, I'm not talking about demons
I don't
and
see
whatever
people
else.
who have no humanity
humans.
in them. They can't be.
Yeah. I'm talking about human children.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
They're all children of God.
Yep.
And they all have the right to live. And if we run around killing babies, you're not Christ-like.
We're massacring them.
Right.
We're massacring them.
Yeah.
It's awful. Innocent.
Right. Now, if somebody's summoning demons or whatever, doing a hybrid, demonic, trans-dimensional, talk about trans.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I thought you were a man became a woman. No, it's from another dimension, had sex with demons. That's the kind of trans they are.
Weird stuff. And it's hard to believe, but it's real. It is real.
People do
it
that
happened
stuff.
then, and
Yes.
it's happening now. It's
Yes.
just technology got far more advanced.
It's like evil squared, Mm-hmm. But anyway, we all agree that's not human.
No.
They're not children of God.
No.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to stir up some shit with this episode.
I know.
Yeah, we are.
I'm like,
This is good.
oh
What
no,
do you
I'm in
think, Todd?
trouble.
What, are you ready for the reaction?
Nothing changes under the sun. So bring it.
Yep. No, it's true. Somebody's got to speak out, though. And there is a cost to speak up against these things and to speak out. You become ostracized from, oh my gosh, they're a white supremacist Nazi, anti-Semite. Like, and they put labels on us and they try to scare us into quiet and submission. And they do control the banks. They do control Hollywood. They do control the media. So they can bring down the house on you for bringing out the truth or shining a light on them. So there is a cost to speaking out. So people who do speak out, like hosts like yourself, and you guys and what you're doing, your audience, make sure you support them, have their backs, because it is a hard thing to do when you're taking all those arrows, because they literally unleash legions against you.
And also, by the way, Turkey is one of the countries that Israel wants to target next.
I saw that was very interesting too.
So I wonder if
Very
they want to
weird
take
timing.
this territory where
They want to bomb it.
They want to
They took
bomb
Iraq.
it
They
to
wanna bomb it.
eliminate
They took Iraq
history.
and
Yeah, it's right on the border of Iran too. So their sights are set on it, and I saw that happening too. And I'm like, that's very interesting. I do think that is related in a way. I think
That's really
the
interesting.
devil's using
Really?
Israel.
That's on the
He's
border
moving
of
on it.
Iran?
Yep, he does not want this out.
I have to review my geography because I did not realize I don't know where that
The
is.
mountains of Ararat in Turkey are, I think it's 19 miles from the border of Iran. Or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I think I'm seeing the area right here.
Yeah, but it's very close. But
Very
I did
interesting.
find that interesting that a couple months ago I was watching the clips where Israel had their sights set next on Turkey.
Well, we've seen that they've bombed ancient sites in
Holy Grails, they-
Gaza,
yep.
Iraq.
in Lebanon, bombing Christian churches.
Yeah. Did you see that? Did whatever happened to that soldier that crushed the crucifix of Jesus Christ?
Oh yeah. I don't know.
They said there was an investigation happening. And if it were the United States that did that to like a Star of David, they would know the guy, they'd know his family, and they'd
Right.
have them all ruined for life. Like, that's the thing. They hate us. And they see you as goyim. Literally, their scripture tells them that you are subhuman. You are not equal to them. You talk to the Epstein victims. They would take them. Maria Farmer said that Ghislaine would take her to these parties and say, you can't eat because you're not Jewish. You aren't one of us. This is a Jewish, you can't eat. because you are not Jewish, you cannot partake of this food. So you have to like sit over there and she would like, starve her.
Was the food young babies?
That's fine.
Todd said it.
Was it adrenochrome? No, but it's real.
Well,
That's how
of
they
course, I
see
mean,
us.
Religious supremacism, ethnic supremacism, these are highly offensive.
Yeah, and they think that they are greater than God. Like, that's the thing. They think I don't have to submit to Christ because I'm a chosen, holy, vessel that, God created, you go him to serve me. That's what he did. They believe that. That's absolutely
You know what's interesting about all of this is that Iran just defeated the United States and Israel in a war. And they did so because they have the Strait of Hormuz, which was gifted to Iran by God.
Yes.
I mean, because that's geography.
Yep.
God created it.
Excuse me, that was promised to
anybody
Israel.
was chosen to win that war, God chose Iran to win that war.
Yep, we got our butts kicked. And, it also cost us 13 American soldiers that we know of. I've heard
it's more like 1,300.
That's what I was told too.
Yeah,
okay. I didn't know if you, but it cost us American lives. And they even said over and over again, we're doing this for Israel. They bombed Iran on behalf of Israel. Israel was about to move on them. So they, got ahead of it and they were doing it. And now Israel's turning on us because Trump won't escalate this into a nuclear war. Israel will not settle for anything less than a nuclear fallout, like them nuking Iran. That's it. They're not happy.
That's
and
true.
if you
That's
see,
what they want.
watch them as they turn on President Trump. Last month he was the greatest president ever for bombing Iran and doing all this stuff. This week they're all like, "Oh, we're concerned." We think he's, I think they're accusing him of having dementia and all these things now they're starting to say about him. People who are alleged quote unquote allies just last week, they're calling Vance anti-Semitic because he reminded them, hey, trillions and trillions of dollars in foreign aid and U.S. weaponry goes to you guys. You guys would be wiped off the map if it wasn't for us. Have some respect. And they're like, anti-Semitic vice president. You see how they have control over our Congress. AIPAC, 98% of their candidates get into office, 98%. But you can't say, the Israel lobby controls America because that would be anti-Semitic. Don't believe what you're seeing with your own two eyes. Don't let my lying eyes deceive me.
Right.
We saw what they did to Thomas Massey. They're a very powerful force of people. And that's what we're up against. But also they were putting pressure on President Trump. And I commend President Trump for getting out.
Well, I do too. I think it's
wise
to end the war.
Yes, I think it had to do with polling, though.
Peace. It was foolish to start the war.
Exactly.
But wise to end it. But look, I just want to bring it back to the theme of this show, decentralization.
Not the Jews.
Which is don't trust the governments. Don't become dependent on the system to provide you with energy or peace or security.
Right.
The centralized systems will fail at every turn of that. We have to either locally with community, individually, or perhaps with local churches, for example, we have to take care of each other and ourselves and our families. And that's about decentralization. Have your own food, have your own natural medicine, have your own natural money, gold and silver.
Oh, yep.
Have your own local technology. Use AI responsibly, but locally so they can't ban it and censor it. Things like that. That's what this show is about.
Exactly. It's a season of building for us, too. They're building, but so should we be.
Well, thank you for joining us here today, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me. Do I get a tour now?
You do, yeah. We're going to show you the lab because maybe you want to send me samples from Noah's Ark, man.
We'll talk about it. Talk about it. I think that we could probably figure something out.
Okay, because we could give you some interesting soil readouts, but
no, that's interesting. I definitely want to talk to you more about that.
There are limitations of what the instruments can see, obviously. But yeah, we can have that conversation. Happy to donate some lab time if it can be of help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have tons of people emailing us who are so many gifted people are Christians. And we are, trying to reach out to all of them because we need everybody's help.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to contribute because I'm very curious about this project. I would love to see what you find there.
Yeah.
So
very exciting.
Very cool. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us here today. Stand by. Todd, any final thoughts to wrap up this episode?
Well, all I know, can I ask one question, Lauren?
Yeah. Sure.
You ran for Senate, right?
I did.
Because I was feeling so silly this whole interview because I'm sitting here thinking, I prepped for you, the one who ran for Senate, and I have categories of questions that have to do with cancellation and debanking and political blacklisting and all of this.
Yeah.
And we just so went a different direction, which I'm really, really grateful. But if you ever want to come back, I already have my interview notes prepared for a different conversation.
Well, Lauren is a multi-talented influencer.
No, it's interesting.
Right? So,
I'll tell a story about my Senate campaign real quick.
Okay.
So I saw firsthand the power of the Jewish structure that they have within. You know, I'm brand spanking new to the movement. My first time running for office. I was still kind of a Zionist at the time. And this Jewish, they were called the American Federation of Jewish Families, reach out to me. And they say, basically, we want to support you. We love your platform, blah, blah, blah. Will you sign this pledge saying that you will, at a minimum, agree and vote in Congress for, I think it was $1.38 billion a year to Israel. It was like some kind of number. And I was like, at the time, I took
sign a pledge?
It was a pledge. It was a blood contract, basically. And, you know, I took the position at the time that all foreign aid was unconstitutional. Americans never signed up for 30% of their income to go to a foreign country, period. And I sent that back and I said, you know, I do not believe it's constitutional. The day I sent that in, bam, 2 days after, media hit piece. It's like they're all intertwined with each other, and they had decided, no, she's not going to win. So they came for me after that, and it all turned on after I turned down the foreign aid contract.
If you had taken the money,
I would have probably...
you could have been a senator.
Yep, they even changed the law to defeat me that year. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, we have a senator who took the money, Ted Cruz.
Oh, he took the money, all right.
He took a lot of moolah.
Took the money. Yep, he dances for it, too. It's their little trick pony. He sure is. What a coward. What a coward these people in Congress are.
I mean, he's supposed to represent Texas.
Yep. No, he got into the Senate so he could represent the interests of Israel. He said so himself.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did say so himself.
He did.
And he believes all the Schofield Bible brainwashing, too.
He sure does. No, that's Schofield.
He quotes Bible scripture like a 6-year-old in Sunday school getting brainwashed.
Yeah, no, none of these people really believe. Like, they're not real Christians.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right.
Wow. Well, fantastic interview today. Thank you. The subject matter content. I really loved it. So thank you. Thank you for stepping up and expressing your faith. And Mike, you know, thank you for all you do because, man, this show is really impacting people. And
it is.
Getting great guests like Lauren on is just, you and the producers are astonishing.
Well, thank you, Todd, for taking the time to join us from the great state of Florida today. And we will take a break. We'll be back with an after party. That's just Todd and I, mostly losing our minds.
Got it.
So we'll do that after this quick break. So stay with us here on Decentralized TV. We'll be right back. Join the official discussion channel for this show on Telegram at t.me/decentralizedtv, where you can ask questions or offer suggestions of who we should interview next. Also be sure to subscribe to the email newsletter on decentralized.tv, where you'll be alerted about 1 day in advance of each new upcoming episode, before it gets published. On decentralized.tv, you'll also find links to our video channels and social media channels across all platforms, including Brighteon, Rumble, BitChute, Twitter, Truth Social, and more. Check it all out at decentralized.tv. Okay, welcome back, folks. This is the after party. So, Todd, where do we begin with going crazy in today's after party? There's so many possibilities.
Where do we begin, or do we end it really quickly? You know, I mean,
yeah, before we go off the rails.
It was amazing, and as I gave a nod to at the end, it's like I really was second guessing myself. Did I prepare for the right guest? You know, because I thought that could happen. You know, you guys send me a message saying Lauren Witzke, we're going to be interviewing her, and so you know, I use my best judgment. I'm sure there's more than one Lauren Witzke out there, but pretty sure I had the right one. But then when we never talked about anything remotely close to what I prepared for, I'm at least glad that I studied scripture for 5 years and could speak to Genesis.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about this show is that we are open to lots of different avenues of conversation, as long as it comes back to empowering people
Right.
with the tools and the
Solution.
knowledge and even the spiritual growth that
Yep.
helps them navigate this world.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes it's reinforcing, right? Even speaking for myself personally. I mean, the topic today, the subject matter today, it really brought me back to when I was 42 and I had not accepted Christ in my life until that year, right? And so it reminded me that, was I just entirely lost for 41 years, or did God have a plan for me? And he knew that there would be something in my life that would happen at the age of 42 that all of a sudden he would get my attention. And so that's why I don't discount anybody who's like maybe even in their mid 60s and like, I don't believe in that God stuff or anything like that. Well, maybe not. But
Well, I can't imagine going through this world thinking that there are no consequences beyond this world.
right.
I mean, that doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah. But I think people's hearts are just shut down. I think there's a switch. I mean, literally a God switch in you. And if it's not on, it's not on, man. So they don't even make that connection.
Do people just think that you go through this life, being a narcissist and whatever, and then when you die, it just lights out and that's it?
Yep.
That's the end of it?
Yep.
No wonder they're terrified of death. Some of those people, they want to merge with the machines. That's why they want to.
Exactly.
They don't want to live forever to meet God. They want to live long enough to merge with the silicon.
Yes.
How crazy is that?
And I have a sneaky suspicion that those who deny God their whole lives, deep down, they know they're screwed. they may not acknowledge it, but how many just fear death at the end, Mike?
I've been really shocked to find out over the last few years how deeply people fear death.
Yeah.
And I find that typically goes along, not always, but often goes along with people who don't believe in any form of a creator.
Right.
And they don't believe in the immortality of the soul.
Right.
So they fear death because they think that's the end.
But you also noted something earlier. It's like, all you have to do to see God is open your eyes, look at the sun.
Yes.
Go walk in your food forest.
Everywhere.
Right? I mean,
yes.
I'm the father of 4 daughters. It's like, you can't tell me God doesn't exist when I see these, his creation, where a little of me and a little of my wife, creates something entirely new that's just like, it's of God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. So I'm really grateful for the time that we had with Lauren and the subject matter. I mean, I like talking about God.
Yeah, well, it's an unusual topic for us on this show.
Yep.
We've done a lot of tech, a lot, some sort of decentralized finance, crypto, and so on.
Sure.
And but I think what's really important, what we're really doing this year, is we're branching out into more and more interesting topics.
Right.
And they may be, they may be unpredictable at times, which is fine.
Exactly. It's like, you want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's kind of how I felt today. Here I was sure I was preparing for the right interview, and it was totally something different. So there was a challenge, right? And it's just like, okay, well, it's going here. Well, let's roll up our sleeves and go.
Yeah, look, as long as our intention of you and I, it's always pure. We want to help our audience get good information, navigate this life, and prepare for whatever comes next also. Yeah. And also, be a good person, express compassion.
Right.
And try not to support evil. So, in fact, I want to talk about that real quickly in the context of what you offer with the UNA concept. You see, when you say, Todd, learn how to keep more of what you earn.
Yes.
And I'll bring up your website, my575e.com.
Mm-hmm.
I think send less money to the centralized system of evil that's using your money to kill and bomb children. You know what I mean? Like there's a moral imperative
There really is.
To legally reduce your taxes as much as possible, because it is immoral to financially support a system that's rooted in death and destruction and evil.
Agreed. And I mean, not that I have anything against bearded trannies and drag reading to my, our kindergartners at our local library, but, it's literally when you think that through, and after the USAID disclosures and everything, and you realize that that's where the tax dollars go. I mean, it's not going to repair potholes, people.
Right.
So at the end of the day, though, and you had Paymon on, Mike, and everybody should know that when we were snot-nosed in 17 and we were told to file that first 1040 for our first job, and when we signed that initial 1040, we literally raised our hand and said, we agree, we volunteer to get on the taxpayers' hamster wheel for the rest of our life. And so I'm just sharing with folks, there is a strategy to where you can get off the hamster wheel. And I just invite people to go to my575e.com, hit Let's Go, watch the interview with Dennis. It's an 1.5-hour interview where I interview the subject matter expert. You can read the free PDF. Everything is free. And if you have additional questions, you can book a private consultation with me and we can talk about your own operating reality. And I will tell you that most people who do book a consultation move forward with it. And as I shared, Mike, before, that, we now have over 550 people in our private Telegram group and approaching 700 people who over the last 3 years I've helped with these. And so it is as advertised. And I invite people to at least become educated in it, Mike.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I think morally,
I agree.
We have an obligation to legally minimize financially supporting a system that is currently rooted in tremendous evil.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, Mike.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Also from my side then, rangerdeals.com is a site where I list the affiliate relationships of the companies that we advocate here. Battalion Metals, co-founded by Tucker Carlson, right there. Trusted partners. We've worked with them for years. If you want gold and silver, this is the trusted place to get it at extraordinarily great prices. Here's Nessa's Hemp, the certified organic CBDA hemp extract with CBDA, that's critical, still intact. Above phone, et cetera, Red Life devices. Here's the peptide company with the BPC 157 that I've used now for 16 months, and so on. Here's the satellite phone store and, Goldbacks, et cetera. So there are deals with these companies and more. They're all found at rangerdeals.com. We earn a little bit on many of these, but not all. We may earn a small percentage at no additional cost to you. But that helps support the platform. So if you'd like to support us, check it out, rangerdeals.com, or Todd's website, my575e.com, with the UNA. Here it is. So that's a wrap, Todd. Thank you for joining me today.
Mike. Oh, you're welcome. And I know you're going to be giving Lauren a tour, and just please express my appreciation for her joining you in studio. And it was a pleasure meeting her. Hopefully, we're both Floridians, so maybe we can cross paths at some point in time.
I will mention that to her, and she's here with a couple of other guests as well. So all four of us are going to go check out the lab right now.
Excellent.
We'll see if we can apply it to Noah's Ark, huh? Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, that would be so cool. That would be so cool.
All right, we'll give it a shot.
Excellent.
All right, thank you, Todd, and thank all of you for watching today. Be sure to check out all of our other episodes at decentralize.tv. Take care.
Cheers.
Stock up on the long-term storable Ranger Bucket Set. 536 servings of clean organic superfoods for your survival pantry. Certified organic and lab tested for purity. Order now at healthrangerstore.com.